Amid this pandemic, there have been a lot of questions about what really happens with our students and with exams that are slated to happen in 2021. And the Education Minister yesterday held a live session on Twitter, on Facebook. He went live and took questions from students. And the Education Minister, Ramesh Pokhriyal, did in fact give some clarity, though there are a lot more questions that need to be addressed from the students. Let me just sum up for you what the Education Minister has said. First, with regards to CBSE exams, Pokhriyal has said that the exams could be pushed to about May. He's also said that discussions are still on about exactly how these exams will be conducted, and also about whether we're going to be seeing a further reduction in the syllabus. And as far as the JEE exams are concerned, there have been a lot of questions about that, about whether syllabus will be reduced. What the Education Minister has said is that this time, instead of two different batches, there could be four in this particular term in 2021. He's also said that there could be choices in the question paper to make it easier for applicants. And then there's the question of NEET. So in that, Pokhriyal has said that there's no question of cancelling NEET 2020. And over the last 24 hours, social media has been abuzz with so many questions and a lot of queries on really what exams will be held, what is the syllabus going to be, what are the dates, etc. We thought we'd try to clear some of those out for you. And that's why joining us on this particular video is Dr. Karan Gupta. He is an education counselor, vast experience in this field, also the founder of Karan Gupta Education Foundation. So Dr. Karan Gupta, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Akshita, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Great. Karan, we've been bombarded with a lot of questions from students, from applicants who are very unsure of their future right now. So I'm just going to get right to it. Start off with questions that have come in from CBSE students, people who are taking up their board exams in 2021. The first one that we saw also occurring a lot is a question about how they can prepare for the board exams. So that the students have asked, how can we prepare for board exams when there's no clarity particularly on when or how even it will be held?
Right. So, Akshita, I mean, from what we understand, what the government has done since the time of the pandemic, we know for a fact that the exams are going to happen. Even in the midst of the pandemic, they conducted the other exams. They never let go of the exams. In the end, we are still an exam-centric nation. We don't believe that we can pass students on merit or just like have interviews or vivas with the students. We want written exams, and that's not going to go. So one thing students should be clear about is that the exams are going to happen. They may have to wear masks. They may have to sit 6 feet apart, which is extremely uncomfortable for students, and it adds more anxiety and more stress to them. But the exams are going to happen. And the second, how to prepare for them? Well, students have to take into account that, well, be ready to take the exams in February. If that's not going to happen, March, April, May, but your exams are going to happen. So start studying, look at all the syllabus that's going to be covered, go through all the past papers that that particular exam covers, but you have to prepare for the exams and assume that it's going to happen.
One of the students has put forth this question: if online learning is effective enough to be confident to take the board exams with just online classes?
Akshita, for a very large part of our education system and the schools that we have in many remote areas, a lot of students don't even have lectures in regular times. They don't have teachers coming in. They're studying on their own. And some of these students become state toppers because they have the will and determination and power to go ahead. So I would tell students that if you have to do something different and have online learning and talk to your friends and have group chats about lectures, about subjects, have study sessions, teammates to study with, it's a different way of learning. Yes, we are not used to it. Yes, but look what's happened this year. We all have made adjustments to the way we work, to the way we function, and there's no exception for students. So I would say that I think online learning is fantastic if you make the most of it. So you go in with a positive attitude, start learning, go to YouTube, find videos which relate to your subject matter, and you'll probably learn more than by sitting in a classroom.
What happens, Karan, and this is a question one student has put forward, what happens if the situation doesn't improve? This is declared as a zero academic year. This seems to be a concern for many students.
So now, Akshita, if that happens, we call that a gap year. It's a year in between your education. You take that year off and you do things for personal enrichment. Take online courses, do online internships, learn a new language, learn computer programming, learn other skills. So eventually, whichever university you'll end up going to, they're going to understand that due to the pandemic, you had to take that year off but you used your time wisely and you used that time to make your profile stronger. So there is a chance that this year could be declared null and void. But that's a chance which we have to take, and it's a chance that we can use to our advantage. We can
Hmm.
actually start doing things to make our profile stronger.
Whether you think, as someone who's seen this particular field for so long, whether there could be perhaps further change, further reduction of the syllabus for CBSE students.
This is something, Akshita, that really worries me. You cannot keep reducing the syllabus. We don't want to produce substandard education. We don't want to do that. We don't want children to have substandard education. Now, these same students are going to go to university and you're going to cut out essential topics from the syllabus. How are they going to cope in university? I
Hmm.
personally think that there's not going to be any more. Actually, you know what? I'm hoping that there's not going to be any more reduction in the syllabus, because that's going to lead to mediocre education, mediocre students, and no one's going to be happy with that.
That's very interesting, because a lot of students, Karan, have been pushing and saying that the only way to address this is by further reduction of syllabus. So you don't think that's the solution?
Akshita, come on, that is something all students would want. When I was a student, I would also ask for the same thing. Listen, cut out 5 more chapters. But that's the easy way out. In the long run, you need to have this education. Like, students ask me, why am I learning chemistry or history or geography? How is it going to help me in my life? How is it going to help me in my future? Well, these are building blocks. Before we learn to make sentences, we need to know the complete alphabet. If you're going to cut out the last 10 alphabets for me, I'm going to make incomplete sentences for the rest of my life.
Another question, Karan, is with regards to practicals. How is that going to work? Student asking here, what pattern can the government introduce if there is no practicals?
So, we have to be innovative. We all are being innovative with the way we work, with the way we function. I think the government can do online practicals. They could possibly have teachers sitting in labs, and they could have online sessions where they're asking students to identify equipment in the lab, identify processes that chemicals are doing in that particular lab. We
Hmm.
can be innovative with that. Now, we do face infrastructure challenges. We're talking
Yeah.
about an entire nation, not just key cities. In this entire nation, we've got to have access to those labs. Those labs have to have strong internet connectivity. And with just one person sitting in the lab, you could have hundred students doing online practicals. We don't see that necessarily as something which is impossible. Across the
Okay.
world, all of this is still done online. You still have online practicals where you have someone who's asking you a practical element of the course that you're studying, putting up instruments on your screen and asking you to identify those instruments. It is possible if the government wills it, and if we have the infrastructure to let at least one teacher sit in a lab and have online vivas or online interviews with hundreds of students.
Okay. Karan, another question. Will a delay in the Class 12 board exams affect our chances of admissions into universities?
So, again, Akshita, people and universities are being very flexible and very understanding. We've had, when you're applying to universities abroad, the SAT, GRE, GMAT, everything has been waived for people for 2021, because the universities understand that it's not in your control. So if a student says that, look, my exams are in June and the results are coming out by September, but my university admissions are in August, they can go ahead with the whole process. They can actually start studying at their university and submit their results within 3 to 6 months of studying. So they do not have to worry about the delay.
Okay, we've got a lot of questions from parents, from students, but I have to get this and keep this concise. So, one last question with regards to CBSE exams. You've got a student asking if this should be completely shifted online, if CBSE exams should be held online. Is it safe for us to write exams in classrooms when even schools haven't opened?
Again, personally, I don't agree with the government's decision to make students wear masks and sit in classrooms. At the end, children are going to be children. There's a limit to how much we can expect them to have social distancing. If we do have internet connectivity in the most remote parts of the country, so why
Yeah.
not then just shift everything online? So I personally don't think students should be sitting in classrooms just for a few more months.
I quickly want to go to the other batch, and this is the JEE exams as well, Karan. The education minister has said that the JEE will be conducted now in February, March, April, and May. But and here's a question that's been asked: with the syllabus not yet completed, how do we ensure we're fully prepared?
So the point is that even if you've not been taught that topic, You take the initiative, read about that particular topic that you feel, you're not even being covered, you've not covered so far, and sit for the exam. Again, this is not ideal. It's not something which I would say this is the most wonderful thing to do. But the times we are in, we all have to make these adjustments to move forward.
Okay, the education minister has also spoken about choices in the question paper to answer 75 out of the 90 questions. And this was announced by Pokhriyal yesterday, saying that it's being considered. One of the students here has asked, will that actually help us?
Well, definitely. I mean, so some students like to do selective studying. They like to focus more on certain chapters and not so much on others. Some are stronger in certain areas and not strong in the other areas.
Yeah.
For such students, this is a fantastic option where they can actually choose the questions where they're more confident of answering correctly. So this is a positive move, and I think it's going to benefit a lot of students.
One last question with regards to JEE. One student has asked which will help us more, ensuring that there's a choice in the question paper or a reduction in syllabus.
I would say choice again. Jakshita, you already know my views about the
Everyone
reduction in
wants.
syllabus. I do not. Everybody, let's do the shortcut now.
Yeah.
Multiple choice, multiple choice papers, giving students option to choose to answer certain questions and let go of others without penalty, like giving them more interactive form of testing works beautifully. For example, you have the GMAT exam. Now, the GMAT exam, it's an online exam. The computer decides the level of difficulty. If you get the first question correct, the computer gives you a harder question. You get that correct, you get a harder question. Till question number 10, and the rest of the paper is extremely difficult. But your score is 700 and above on 800. If your first question in the exam is wrong, the second is easier. If it's wrong, the third is easier, and the rest of the paper is fantastic, but your score below 500. So the computer is adapting the test depending on how you answer the questions. So this kind of testing is what we really need to get into.
Okay. Finally, with regards to NEET, one applicant has asked, is it possible to hold NEET exam nationwide online, and should the government do it considering the pandemic?
I think so. I think, well, in terms of possibility, I, our infrastructure is getting there. When I say infrastructure, I'm talking about internet penetration, and I'm talking about having computers in the remotest parts of the country. Because again, we're not talking about just metro cities. We don't have problems there. We're talking about the most remote part. If we have that, I think we can do this online. We could serve a majority of people taking the exam online. Maybe we have a few centers in places where it's not possible to do online. But even if you tell me, look, 75% of all candidates took the exam online, that's going to be a huge number. And it's going to reduce the chances of people getting infected or people, putting them in danger of the virus. That's going to reduce drastically. So I would say let's look at a pattern where we can do a large chunk of the exam or large chunk of the people. Let's let them take the exam online, and a small chunk who can't take it online, let's give them a few centers.
One last question, Karan, which is with regards again to NEET. The applicant has asked, is there any way to delay the NEET exam at the same time ensure that it doesn't affect our admission?
So the admission, I mean, they're hand in hand. We can delay the NEET to a certain point, but we need the NEET results to get admission. So I really don't think, what the student I think is asking for is provisional admission. Provisional admission would be based on everything else but the NEET. They get into the college, and once you submit the NEET score, the admission becomes final. And this usually works when we have paucity of time, which is the case right now. But again, looking at the sheer volume of candidates that we have, and the reason why the NEET exists is to filter those candidates out and to arrive at that selected batch who need to be offered admission. I don't think that process can change because of the volume of students that we have in India. So in short, no. I think you would have to take the NEET, get your results, and then get admission.
Okay. Your heart goes out to these students. They're facing such unprecedented, such uncertain times. But I think the clarity that you have given us, Karan, is very, very helpful. And I'm sure many will benefit from this video as well. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time out and joining us. And to all of you who wrote to us with your questions, thank you very much. We hope that, this video will give you some answers. I'm sorry if, we missed out any of those questions, but we'll keep coming to you with these informative videos and exactly what you really need to do going forward and how to prepare for these exams. Thanks again, Karan, for joining us.
Thank you, Akshita. It was a pleasure to be here.